Life Stories, a journey of healing and redemption. Welcome to Life Stories, where real struggles lead to powerful transformations. Today's story is about Maddie, a woman who spent her entire childhood supporting the very parents who should have cared for her. When they suddenly demanded her house, she made a bold decision to fight back. Not with anger, but with a lesson they could never escape. What followed was a life-changing wellness program, a test of love, and an unexpected path to redemption. Will her parents truly change? Or will old habits win? Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey. The phone vibrated against my desk, my mother's name flashing across the screen like a warning sign. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, pretending I was too busy, but I knew she would just keep calling. I let it ring 4 times, each chime syncing with the rapid beating of my heart. Before I finally answered, "Maddie, darling," my mother's voice dripped with the same sugary sweetness she always used when she wanted something. "Your father and I have wonderful news. We're coming to visit this weekend." My stomach dropped. I glanced at my planner, the meticulous schedule that ruled my life. It was filled with meetings, consultations, and upcoming retreats that needed my attention. But no matter how busy I was, I knew from experience that my mother wouldn't take no for an answer. "Mom, I have 3 retreats to oversee this weekend," I said, gripping my pen tighter. "It's really not a good time." "Oh, surely you can spare time for your parents," she trilled. "We haven't even seen your new house yet. And you know how much your father hates FaceTime." I closed my eyes, already regretting picking up the call. The last time they had visited, 5 years ago, they had stayed for 2 weeks, burned through my groceries, maxed out my credit card, and left without so much as a thank you. I had sworn to myself that I wouldn't let that happen again. I took a deep breath. "Fine," I said. "But I can only spare Saturday afternoon." "Perfect. We'll be there Friday night." "Wait." Before I could protest, she hung up. I stared at my phone, the weight of their arrival settling on my shoulders like a heavy coat. They were coming, and there was nothing I could do about it. Without hesitation, I dialed Olivia, my younger sister. "They're coming," I said the moment she picked up. The familiar hum of the espresso machine in her coffee shop whirred in the background. "Both of them? This weekend? And I have a feeling it's not just a social call. Want me to come over? I can bring reinforcements." By reinforcements, she meant wine. "Please." I sighed. "Friday night. They'll be here around 7. After hanging up, I walked through my house, my sanctuary. Every piece of furniture, every artwork on the walls, had been chosen with care, a reflection of the life I had built for myself. A life they had no part in creating. I had started with nothing, just sheer determination and a loan from my mentor, Victoria. From that, I built Serenity Retreats, a wellness business that spanned 5 locations across the country. It wasn't just a career. It was my escape, my proof that I could survive without them. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Dwayne. "Hey, beautiful," his voice was warm, steadying. "Still on for dinner?" I hesitated. "Rain check. My parents just announced they're visiting this weekend. The famous Wade parents," he mused. "Want me to come over for moral support?" I considered it. "Maybe Saturday. I'd rather not subject you to the full experience just yet." He chuckled, but there was an edge of concern in his voice. "You know," he said gently, "most people don't have to fortify themselves against their parents' visits. Most people didn't spend their childhood being their parents' personal ATM." I turned toward my office window, looking out at the Vermont mountains stretching toward the horizon. They were my daily reminder of how far I had come from the trailer park where I grew up. "I started working at 12. I continued, my voice quieter. "Paper route, babysitting, anything to help pay their bills." By 16, I was working full-time after school at the diner. They took every penny. telling me it was my duty to support the family while they pursued their dreams. And now, Dwayne said, you own 5 successful wellness retreats. Karma's funny that way. Yeah. Well, karma's about to ring my doorbell on Friday night. After we hung up, I tried to focus on work. But my mind kept drifting to the past. The college fund that disappeared into my father's failed music career. My mother's pyramid schemes. Always needing just a little more money to get off the ground. The nights I went hungry so Olivia and Chloe, my youngest sister, could eat. My phone lit up with a text. Chloe, Olivia told me about Mom and Dad. Want me to accidentally schedule their room at the retreat instead of your house? I smiled despite myself. My sisters had escaped the worst of our parents' financial abuse. Largely because I had shielded them. Now, they were my strongest allies. The rest of the week passed too quickly. Before I knew it, Friday evening arrived, bringing with it the sound of tires crunching against my gravel driveway. I stood by the window, watching as their rental car pulled up, a luxury model. Of course, some things never changed. Olivia arrived moments later, carrying 2 bottles of wine and wearing her game face. Ready for this? She asked. As I'll ever be. I took a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I could see their silhouettes. My father's stance was confident, entitled. My mother bounced on her heels like an excited child. Remember, Olivia whispered. You're not that scared kid anymore. This is your house, your life, your rules. I nodded, reached for the door handle, and prepared to face the people who had taught me my first lessons about survival, lessons I had never wanted to learn. The moment I opened the door, my mother surged forward, wrapping me in an embrace that smelled of expensive perfume and manufactured affection. Maddie Bear. Oh, it's been far too long, she crooned, squeezing me tight. I stiffened, forcing myself not to recoil. Behind her, my father strode inside like he owned the place, wheeling their designer luggage across my hardwood floors without so much as a greeting. Beautiful home, he said, his gaze sweeping across the open-plan living room. But his eyes weren't admiring, they were calculating, scanning every surface like an appraiser. Must have cost a fortune. Would it kill him to say I'm proud of you? I stepped back, letting Olivia slide into the space beside me. A silent show of support. Would anyone like wine? She asked, already pouring generous glasses. Oh, Olivia's here too, my mother noted, her smile tightening slightly. She had always preferred dealing with us separately, divide and conquer was her specialty. We moved into the living room, where my parents promptly claimed the largest couch. My mother placed her designer handbag on the coffee table and, with a well-practiced flourish, pulled out a crisp manila folder. My stomach clenched at the sight. So my father said, clearing his throat, we've been thinking about retirement. I raised an eyebrow. Both of you? Neither of them had held a steady job in decades. Don't be smart. Maddie, my mother chided. Your father's music career could still take off. But we need to be practical about our golden years. Olivia snorted into her wine glass. I shot her a warning look. We've been looking at options, my father continued, flipping through the folder's contents. But everything in Florida is so expensive now. Then my mother turned to me, her expression brightening. And then I had a brilliant idea. She gestured grandly around the room. This house. I frowned. What about it? Well, sweetheart, it's far too big for just you, she said. As if that was a perfectly reasonable argument. And with all your retreats, you're barely here anyway. The room went silent. Even the ice in our glasses seemed to stop clinking. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked, my voice coming out steadier than I felt. We want to live here, my father said plainly. You can stay too. Of course. It'll be like old times. One big happy family. Olivia choked on her wine. You can't be serious, she sputtered. But my mother was already pulling more papers from the folder. Actually, we've spoken to a lawyer. Since your success came from our early investment in your education. Investment? I cut in. Heat rising in my chest. You mean the money I earned working double shifts at the diner while you bought timeshares? Maddie. Don't be dramatic, my father sighed. That old patronizing tone making my skin crawl. We sacrificed everything for you girls. Sacrificed? Olivia's voice sharpened. Maddie paid our mortgage when she was 17. She bought my school supplies. My clothes. My food. That's what family does, my mother interrupted smoothly. And now it's time for Maddie to help her family again. She slid a document toward me. Our lawyer says we have a strong case for partial ownership, given our contributions to your early career. My hands shook as I picked up the papers. You're suing me for my house? My mother's smile didn't falter. Only if necessary. Darling. We'd prefer to handle this as a family. The room spun slightly. Get out. I wanted to say it. To scream it. But my father was already standing, towering over me like he used to when I was small. Maddie. Don't be difficult, he said. His voice low and heavy. We're your parents. We have rights. I met his gaze. My own fury burning through the years of fear I had once felt. Rights. My voice rose. Like my right to a childhood. My right to go to college instead of supporting your schemes. Those rights. Everything we did was for this family, my mother insisted. Her voice cracking theatrically. No, I said. Stepping forward. Everything I did was for this family. Everything you did was for yourselves. My father's face hardened. We'll give you time to think about it. He gathered their documents, sliding them neatly back into the folder. Our lawyer will be in touch Monday if we don't hear from you. With that, they left. Their half-drunk wine glasses still sitting on my coffee table. No coasters. Of course. The door hadn't even closed before my legs gave out. Olivia caught me, guiding me to the couch. I'm calling Chloe and Dwayne. They're going to take everything. I whispered. Like hell they are. Olivia was already dialing. Remember my friend from law school? The one who specializes in family law? We're calling her right now. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother. Mom, sleep on it. Sweetie. Family should stick together. I swallowed the rising nausea. I think I'm going to be sick. I muttered. No, Olivia grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to meet her gaze. You're going to be angry. You're going to fight. And this time, she squeezed my hand. You're going to win. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the smug satisfaction on my parents' faces. Their certainty that they could walk in and take what I had built. They had spent their whole lives using me. And now they were trying to make it legal. Not this time. By morning, my head was clear. Olivia and I sat at my kitchen island. Coffee steaming in our mugs as we prepared for battle. Chloe joined us via video call. Her face set with determination. They want to live here, Olivia said, flipping through notes. Fine. Let's make them earn it. I smirked. The first flicker of energy sparking inside me. How do you feel about offering them an exclusive wellness retreat experience? Chloe gasped. Then grinned. Oh my God. You're evil. Not evil. I corrected. Therapeutic. For the first time since last night, I felt the power shift back to me. They wanted a home. They'd get one under my terms. Victoria, my mentor and the first investor in Serenity Retreats, arrived within the hour. She walked in with her signature air of confidence, setting a folder of legal documents on the counter. I've reviewed their so-called claim, she said, flipping through the pages. It's weak. They're banking on emotional manipulation, not actual law. Classic mom and dad. Olivia muttered. But we need a counteroffer that looks generous. Victoria continued. Something airtight. I nodded and pulled out a blank retreat schedule. They're always looking for a free ride. I said. Let's give them structure instead. A real wellness program tailored just for them. Chloe's eyes sparkled. Oh, I love this. I grabbed a pen and started writing. First, they'll live in the guest quarters, not the main house. Those quarters are still under renovation, meaning no luxury amenities. Minimalist living. Chloe chimed in. Sparse but legal. I grinned. Exactly. No TV. No fancy takeout. They'll be on a structured meal plan with healthy, portion-controlled food. Victoria smirked. I assume no more bottomless margaritas and five-star dining? Not a chance. I scribbled down the daily schedule. 6 a.m. meditation. 7 a.m. mindfulness journaling. Then a full day of structured therapy and workshops. Chloe clapped her hands. Financial literacy. They need to see, in black and white, exactly how much they've taken from us over the years. And emotional responsibility. Olivia added. They have to confront their manipulation tactics. Victoria leaned back, clearly impressed. This isn't a punishment. It's an intervention. I tapped my pen on the table. They want to claim ownership of my success. Let them experience what real work looks like. Chloe glanced at the clock. So when do we drop this bomb on them? I reached for my phone. Right now. I typed the message. Me, Mom. Dad. I've been thinking. You're right, family should help each other. I have an offer for you. Let's talk. The response came almost instantly. Mom, oh. Wonderful. We knew you'd come around. No. Mom. You have no idea what you're in for. 2 hours later. They arrived. My mother practically glowed with satisfaction as they settled into the living room. Believing they had already won, I slid a crisp document across the table. Here's my offer. My father barely glanced at it before looking up. We don't need a contract. Maddie. We're family. I smiled. Read it. He huffed but picked up the pages. As his eyes scanned the first few lines, his smug expression flickered. A structured program, he muttered. 6-week commitment. Therapy. Meditation. My mother flipped through the pages, her lips pursing. Cooking classes? What is this? It's a wellness retreat. I said smoothly. Since you both need a stable home, I'm offering you a place to stay along with a comprehensive personal development plan. Dad scoffed. This is ridiculous. I leaned forward. The alternative is a motel. Silence. Mom adjusted her designer blouse. And what happens after 6 weeks? If you fully commit and show real progress. I said. We'll discuss what comes next. Dad slammed the papers down. And if we don't? I met his glare without flinching. Then you leave. Permanently. Their faces darkened, realizing the trap they had walked into. You wanted a home. I said. This is my offer. Take it or leave it. They didn't respond immediately, but I saw the flicker of hesitation. They were broke again. This was their only option. Mom sighed dramatically. We need time to consider. I nodded. You have 48 hours. When they left, Olivia let out a slow whistle. That was masterful. Victoria smirked. Now. We wait. I exhaled deeply, watching their car disappear down the road. For the first time in my life, the choice was entirely mine. The deadline came and went with no response. No surprise there. My parents had always believed silence was a power move, a way to make me second-guess myself. But I wasn't a desperate teenager anymore. On the evening of the second day, my phone finally buzzed. Mom, we've reviewed your offer. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. I hope you're happy. Mom, when can we move in? I stared at the screen, feeling the familiar mix of exhaustion and frustration. Olivia and Chloe were already at my place, sipping wine in anticipation. They caved. I said, tossing my phone onto the counter. Olivia smirked. Of course they did. They have no other options. Chloe grinned. Let the healing begin. whether they like it or not. The move-in day arrived sooner than I expected. At precisely 10 a.m., a sleek rental car pulled into the driveway. This time, they weren't alone. A middle-aged man in a cheap suit stepped out with them. "Oh, hell no," Olivia muttered. I crossed my arms as they approached. "Who's this?" My father cleared his throat. "Our lawyer." I didn't blink. "You signed the contract. What's left to discuss?" The man, slimy, cheap cologne kind of guy, stepped forward. "Ms. Wade, my clients have concerns about the conditions of this arrangement. They feel the structure of your program may constitute elder abuse." I blinked, then burst out laughing. "Elder abuse?" My father bristled. "We're in our 60s. Maddie, you can't expect us to live under military conditions at our age." I smiled. "Ice cold." "Then don't. You're free to leave." Silence. My mother clutched her handbag. "Maddie, we just think." I held up a hand. "No. You don't think. Mom. You manipulate. You spin stories until you're the victim. But not this time." I turned to their lawyer. "Your clients have two choices. Follow the program or leave." The man hesitated. He had probably expected me to panic, to scramble. Dad clenched his jaw. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll do it." Victoria, who had been standing nearby, handed them each a folder. "Here's your official retreat schedule. Phones are only allowed during designated hours. You'll have structured meal plans, therapy sessions, and financial responsibility training." Mom's face paled. "Financial training?" "Yap." Chloe held up her tablet. "By the way, your first session will go over all the money Maddie had to spend on you. Every single penny." Dad's lips thinned. "This is ridiculous." "Maybe," I said lightly, "but it's necessary." With that, we led them to the guest quarters. The space was intentionally sparse. Minimal furniture. No luxury amenities. A small kitchenette. The walls were bare. The beds simple but comfortable. It wasn't a punishment. It was a wake-up call. Mom looked around, horrified. "This isn't what we imagined." I met her gaze. "I know. That's the point." They didn't say another word as we left them to settle in. The first few days were eventful. On the second morning, I woke up to shouting, "I will not do sunrise yoga." Dad's voice echoed across the property. I sipped my coffee, watching from the main house as Victoria stood her ground. "The schedule is non-negotiable. Jonathan," she said smoothly, "your day begins with meditation." This is insane. I'm 61 years old. Perfect age to develop flexibility, physical and mental. I nearly choked on my coffee. Mom appeared behind him, looking lost without her usual full makeup and elaborate breakfast spreads. "John, maybe we should try it. Remember what Dr. Marcus said about embracing new experiences?" 3 days in, and the cracks in their facade were already showing. That afternoon, Mom found me outside and hesitated before sitting down. "Maddie, can we talk?" I stayed guarded. "That's what therapy's for." She fidgeted. "No. I mean, really talk. About everything." I let out a slow breath. "Go on." She looked down. Uncharacteristically quiet. "I saw the spreadsheets in financial literacy class today. Everything you earned. Everything we took. I never realized how much it added up." My heart clenched. But I kept my voice even. "You never realized." She shook her head. "We told ourselves it was normal. That children help their parents. But seeing it all laid out like that," her voice cracked. "We stole your childhood. Didn't we?" I didn't answer right away. After a beat, I said, "I don't want words. Mom. I want actions." She nodded, eyes damp. Then Dad stormed in. "Karen. Don't talk to her without me present." I stood. "Unauthorized conversations are against program rules." "Dad." He turned red. "This is insane." "Then leave." Silence. Finally. He exhaled sharply. Fine. He left without another word. As I watched them retreat to their quarters, Olivia and Chloe came up beside me. That was different, Olivia said. Chloe nodded. She looked genuinely sorry. I exhaled. Maybe. But I'm not celebrating yet. Tomorrow was another day. Another chance for them to prove if this change was real. 2 weeks into the program, the real breakthrough happened. The morning started like any other structured schedules. Controlled meals. Meditation. Therapy. But today was different. Today was the first mandatory family therapy session. I wasn't sure what to expect. But when I walked into the retreat's counseling room, the air felt heavier than usual. My parents sat stiffly across from me. Olivia. And Chloe. Dr. Marcus, their assigned therapist, leaned forward in his chair, hands clasped. Today, he said, we're going to do a role reversal exercise. Parents, you will listen. No interrupting. No defending. Just listen. My father immediately tensed. We've heard plenty. No, Dr. Marcus cut him off. You've defended plenty. Today. You listen. I swallowed. Nerves twisting inside me. But I'd spent my whole life swallowing my pain. Not today. I pulled out a worn piece of paper. This, I said. My voice steady, is my college acceptance letter to NYU. Full scholarship. Mom's eyes widened in delight. You never told us. Because. I continued. Ignoring her. The day it came. You had already emptied my bank account for Dad's recording studio equipment. Equipment you sold 2 months later for 1/10 of what you paid. The room went silent. I couldn't afford the dorm deposit. I said. Or books. Or even a bus ticket to New York. So I tore up the letter and took another shift at the diner. My father had gone pale. Maddie. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. Olivia took a shaky breath. Every Christmas, I watched Maddie wrap presents for Chloe and me. Presents she bought with her own money, while you two were in Cancun. Or Vegas. Or wherever. She clenched her fists. She was 16. Playing Santa. Because our parents didn't care enough to be home. Mom started crying. We thought we were. No, Dr. Marcus cut her off. You don't get to talk. Not yet. Chloe went last. Her voice was small but fierce. I used to be proud. Telling my friends that my mom was an entrepreneur. That my dad was a musician. Then I got older and realized you weren't entrepreneurs or musicians. You were just takers. Dad stood abruptly. That's enough. We get it. We were terrible parents. Sit down. Jonathan. Dr. Marcus said. The exercise isn't finished. Dad hesitated. Then slumped back into his chair. Mom wiped at her eyes. We thought we were teaching you independence, she whispered. I exhaled. Exhausted. No. Mom. You taught us survival. I taught them independence. Dr. Marcus pulled out 3 envelopes. Your daughters have written letters. You'll read them privately. During tomorrow's session. I can't. Dad murmured. I can't face any more of this. I met his gaze. That's the problem. Dad. You've never been able to face anything. Not bills. Not responsibility. Not the damage you caused. You ran away while I cleaned up your messes. He buried his face in his hands. Mom squeezed his shoulder. For the first time in my life. She looked like a mother. Dr. Marcus cleared his throat. You have 2 weeks left in the program. The first 2 weeks were about breaking patterns. The next 2 are about building something new. My mother nodded immediately. My father took longer. Finally. He exhaled. All right. The session ended. But as we left the room, Dad hesitated. Maddie. I turned. His voice was different, smaller. I didn't want the recording studio equipment. I frowned. What? I was scared, he admitted. You were so young. But already more successful than me. Taking your money, it was control. Power. I knew I was failing as a father. So I made sure you couldn't succeed without me. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry. Maddie. God. I'm so sorry. I couldn't breathe. In 32 years. I had never heard my father apologize. Not once. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was a start. Mom reached for me. I stepped back. Not yet. I said. Words are great. But I need actions. She nodded. Understanding. As they walked back to their quarters, I turned to Olivia and Chloe. Did that really just happen? Chloe whispered. Olivia crossed her arms. Maybe. But Mom's best performances always came right before her biggest asks. I nodded slowly. They were finally doing the work. But only time would tell if it would last. Graduation day arrived with an unfamiliar feeling, hope. My parents stood before a small gathering at the retreat. Looking nothing like the people who had arrived weeks ago. Their expensive facades had been stripped away. Replaced with something real. As part of their program completion, they had to demonstrate their progress through action. Instead of demanding more, they handed me something unexpected, a check. Small. But symbolic. The first time in their lives they had given instead of taken. We're moving to the Arizona retreat, Mom announced. To work as peer mentors. To earn our place. I studied them. Searching for deception. But for the first time, I saw sincerity. They were no longer my responsibility. They were finally standing on their own. And I was free. Subscribe to Life Stories for more powerful transformations.